Premiered on ABC's Disney's One Saturday Morning for 6 seasons, Recess follows a group of grade school kids and their misadventures they have during their school recess. The main cast consists of Gus, the new kid. He's the viewer's point of view character. Mikey, the gentle giant, a kind, philosophical, and overweight boy with the singing voice of Robert Goulet. Gretchen, the smart kid. Vince, the athlete. Spinelli, the roughhousing, angry tomboy. Imagine if Bakugo from My Hero Academia was a good and likable character. And finally, the leader of the group, TJ. He's the troublemaking, prank-planning mastermind. Think of him as a better version of Zach Morris. This was Recess's only theatrical film. However, one other show on the One Saturday Morning block did get a film too. That would be Disney's Teacher's Pet. Maybe I'll go into One Saturday Morning another day. Until then, on with the review. The film begins when a secret clandestine group breaks into a military facility for some unknown purpose. They need a secret hideout to initiate their plan. But where? Why 3rd Street Elementary School, of course? Well, sometime later, it's the last day of school and TJ finds out that all of his friends are going to camps for the summer to work on their futures. Wait, just how long are these camps? Isn't it typically 2 weeks and not 2 months for camping? Anyway, in the dumps, one day TJ passes by the school which seems to be flashing itself. He tries to investigate but gets scared off by a bald man in black. After knowing the shenanigans that's happening at the school, TJ looks for help from everyone from his family, the police, to Principal Prickly. Principal Prickly agrees to help TJ begrudgingly, and well, something happens to him. Now, when Principal Prickly got zapped, was he teleported? And if so, why were his shoes the only thing left? And why are they smoking? And so, with nothing else to do and no one else to turn to, he does the only thing he can do. He brings the old gang back together again, with a driving assist from his older sister that he has to blackmail, of course.
Oh, how I dream of the mustache fuzz on Jimmy's sweaty lips, glistening as he cooks in the light of a dozen hamburger heat lamps. Hey, that's my diary! Give me that! Duck.
Good old TJ. Will the gang be able to not only unravel the villain's scheme but save the day? Watch the film to find out. Or I could just keep talking about it. Either way works. After TJ gets the gang together, they start to question his motives, thinking he planned all this because he was lonely. Why are they just now coming to this conclusion? Couldn't they have thought of this before he and his sister broke them out? They're about to lay into him, but then this happens. This was their reaction to that. 3 minutes in, and we see the villain. Sorta, he's in shadow, but we get a clue on his possible motivation.
Why is it so important? Because, my academically challenged young friend, it used to be mine.
Something I really enjoyed was how they had an answer for a plot hole once it presented itself. If they had got broken out of the camps, how will it be possible for them to not be caught when they're doing their spying? Pretty clever, guys. Randall has been spying on the gang all during this and snitches to Miss Finster, who is doing boxing practice. Gee, I wonder will this play any part in the climax? Well, later on, the gang investigates some weird sounds in the school. While that's happening, Miss Finster and Randall try to break into the school to stop them, only to come undone by Finster's massive junk in the trunk. Anywho, the kids find the cause of the noises and spy on a group of scientists. We finally see the villain completely and he seems to have Alfred working for him. Wait, Alfred?
Dr. Benedict, we're ready for the test.
Coming!
Tisk tisk. Master Bruce will be very displeased when he hears about this. Benedict's goal is to move the moon for some insidious reason. Then we see what happens to those who failed him.
No, not detention! Not detention!
Take him away!
No, please, I can...
Unfortunately, after this, the kids get noticed and they get chased by scientists, security, men in black, and ninjas. Wait, ninjas? The gang is able to get away except for, well, TJ, who gets tossed in the clink and finds out what happened to Principal Prickly. Why is he not wearing any pants? The gang do the only sensible thing that they can think of and go to the cops, but they just make fun of them. The cops here are so useless. I'm starting to get New Year's Evil flashbacks again. We then learn a little about the villain, Dr. Philip Benedict. As in Benedict Arnold. Really, movie? Really? You see, he's a rogue teacher. But first, flashback time. See, back in the 1960s, these guys were young and hip educators. Prickly was a Beals clone, Finster was hot, and Benedict was the cool principal. But it was all a facade. Benedict wants to change the education system by eliminating recess and giving kids more tests, starting with 3rd Street Elementary. Boy, does that sound familiar. I believe this stuff is even happening today. I remember as a kid, weeks of our school time was used to study for standardized tests. Then later in the year, more weeks would be used just to take the tests that we studied earlier that we had already forgotten about. Oh, sorry, on with the review. The point is, Benedict isn't doing this to help the kids, but to further his own career in the government. Oh, and this plot point didn't come out of nowhere because remember that seemingly throwaway scene that happened in the first act of the film?
The National No Recess movement has hit a serious stumbling block with the disappearance of its leader, former Secretary of Education Philip Benedict. Benedict, who was fired by the president 2 years ago for his extremist views.
That was pretty clever, and I've got to give some props to the writers and director of this film for doing that. Anyway, the idealistic Prickly is against this and goes to the superintendent to put a stop to this. He does, but also immediately appoints Prickly as the new principal. Thus, a lifelong grudge is born. Sometime later, after the gang pilfers some secret documents from the school, the master plan finally becomes clearer. Benedict has created a tractor beam and wants to use it on the moon. But how will controlling the moon end recess? Well, anyway, TJ finds Chekhov's ball, and he and Principal Prickly try to escape, and the final plan finally comes into focus. Benedict wants to end summer vacation. Wait a minute. Isn't this a plot from a Phineas and Ferb film from about a decade later? Well, Disney does like to recycle, so... Anyway, TJ and Prickly are captured again, and the gang realize that they need help. But since the cops don't take them seriously, they go to the only one they have left. A giant talking dog. No. TJ's sister. She's helping them gather reinforcements. Meanwhile, Bill pontificates to Prickly and TJ and laments on losing his job and Finster. He hasn't seen her recently, has he? Okay, this is the 3rd time someone has gone to the cops for help. This time it's Miss Finster, and the cops just wind up making fun of them each time. Man, are they useless. This would have never happened if Officer Green was on the case. While caught in the birdcage, TJ and Prickly have a heated heart-to-heart.
How can you understand? You're just a grown-up. What do you know about summer vacation?
Every adult you've ever known was a kid at some time in his life. You think we don't remember summer vacation? Riding bikes down by the creek, catching pollywogs in a jar, camping out under the stars? Some days I sit there in my office looking out at you kids on the playground and I think, they don't know how good they got it. In a few years, they're all going to be grown-ups like me, and all those good times will just be memories for them too. Don't you ever say I don't care about summer vacation, because those memories are the last part of childhood I got left.
All kidding aside, that's actually some very good writing and acting right there. Elsewhere, the cavalry is in disarray without a strategist like TJ to lead them, so they get someone possibly better. George S. Patton, I mean Gus, and he lifts their spirits by giving them a rousing speech.
Man, Wormer dropped the big one.
What? Over? Did you say over? Nothing is over until we decide it is. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Hell no!
German? Forget it, he's rolling.
This all leads to a climax that includes a chase scene done to the tune to the theme of SWAT. Nope, no good. This song is better. Well, after some shenanigans, the gang and Prickly try to stop Bill from pushing the button. But first, Bill has to monologue his master plan to them.
Say me, could make test scores go up. Why, everybody would feel better. They might even elect that person President of the United States.
That fiend doesn't even know that all you have to do is just be a former reality star or entertainer in order to run for public office. Silly, silly man. Well, he goes on to tell them that the cold weather countries like Canada and Iceland, they have top scores because it's too cold to go out and play. Sure, that's the reason. Out of nowhere, Finster and the teachers arrive to save the day. Also, it appears Bill likes his women a bit
Extra thick!
You know, with the exception of Miss Croaky, the teachers really aren't helping that much. Also, these ninjas should be ashamed of themselves being taken out by Shaken Pop. I guess they were running low on chakra. And this here is the perfect song for the climax. Well, the lever is pulled, but thanks to Chekhov's baseball, the day, or rather, summer vacation is saved. Oh, now the cops are doing something. So useless. The film ends with both TJ and Principal Prickly thanking each other and coming to an understanding with each other. With that, the film ends, and this is the perfect way to end the series. It's heartwarming, a bit bittersweet, but still open-ended enough that you wonder what will happen next with all the characters, since this would be the last that we would see of them. Except this wasn't quite the end of Recess. Here's some things that I really liked about the film. It had a good story and the characters' personalities are consistent to the original series. Usually movies that are adapted from TV series remake or reboot the series in order to put it on screen. Schools Out didn't do that. It went with another option. This is a continuation of the series. Here are a couple examples of shows that did the same thing when they became films. The Simpsons and The X-Files. Now normally this would be a problem since it would only be made for the fans of the series and any outsiders would find it difficult to get into it. However, since the characters' personalities and the group dynamic is so straightforward, it's easy for anyone to get into the film, so there isn't any heavy lifting. Another thing I really liked is the soundtrack is great. I want the soundtrack. The music plays well with each scene that it's in, whether it's a comedic or action-packed scene and so on. Plus, there are so many good songs that if this film can expand its target demo's musical knowledge, I see that as a good thing. Another thing, the voice acting is great. The regular cast knocks it out of the park, but what's really good is the celebrity voices that weren't in the series did good as well. James Woods did well as the villain, and initially I was worried that he would just be doing Hades all over again. While there is some of that here, he does make Dr. Benedict feel like a different character. Also, I didn't realize until editing this review that Melissa Joan Hart was the voice of TJ's sister Becky, so props to her. Another thing that I like, the Save the World plot. Yes, as with most, if not all animated films aimed at kids, they go on a venture to save the day. And yes, the plot of the villain is ridiculous if you think about it, but considering the tone of the show, this was probably the best way to go. The adventure, of course, is going to be much grander than anything in their regular series. Still, I think it was executed well. As for negatives, well, one, the CGI isn't integrated that well. It stands out like a sore thumb. But I give it a pass for a couple reasons. It's not in every scene or even in most scenes. And the other reason, this is early CGI. The film came out only a few years after Beast Wars and Reboot, so there were still kinks to be worked out. Another negative, even though I gave it a positive earlier, the soundtrack is too age specific. Since the songs were even by that point decades old, they might not be a hit with the young demo that this film is aiming at. While the songs work in the context of the story, they might work more if you're an adult than if you're a child. And finally, the animation. The animation isn't bad, and it is an improvement over the TV series, but it's not as substantial as I wanted it to be. Still, that said, yes, I recommend this film. It's a perfect send-off to a great series. Or it would have been if the series ended there. See, the series didn't actually end until October of that year, yet even then, that wasn't the end of Recess. Sorta. Earlier I said that this was the only theatrical film for the series, and it was. It's just that the other films were straight to video. The reason for this was simple. Recess Schools Out bombed. On a $23 million budget, it made $44.5 million at the box office. And a film, in order to break even, usually has to make 2.5 times its production budget. And in order to make a profit and be considered a hit, it has to make 3 times. Now, the other films in the series are Recess Christmas, Miracle on 3rd Street, Recess All Grown Down, and ending with Recess Taking the 5th Grade. I've yet to see any of these films, but after reading about them, they weren't real films, and by that I mean that each film is really only 3 to 4 episodes of the show slapped together, just like Belle's Magical World and the Atlantis sequels. Okay, so this just seems to be like the typical Disney sequel straight-to-video thing, and was a cash grab, right? Well, maybe not. Reruns of the show kept running on ABC and UPN until September 2nd, 2003, and on Disney Channel until June 30th, 2010, and on Toon Disney until October 27th, 2011, right before Toon Disney became Disney XD. So it stayed in reruns for over a decade after its last new episode. Even today, the show is still remembered fondly for the few that remember it. The series currently isn't available on DVD. Well, sorta. You can find DVD copies of it, however, it seems those were maybe someone recording off of their own VHS copies. Schools Out did have a DVD release in 2001, but it's off print, as are the other films. You can, however, rent and buy the films on Amazon Prime Video. Let me end on this. My goal for this review was to give attention to a great series that I feel has started to be forgotten. I want to bring up some happy memories for fans of the series and give a recommendation to any potential new fans. Recess was a series that was fun for all ages. It didn't insult the intelligence of the viewer whether they were 5 years old or 50. I'll end on this quote from writers Matt Zoller-Seitz and Alan Zoller-Sepinwall from their book TV the Book on their feelings about Recess. Easily one of the greatest, most prankishly playful adult cartoons ever passed off as children's entertainment. Recess is a highly ritualized bit of entertainment that strikes the same notes over and over again, but always in infinite variation and with a surprising eye for psychological grace notes, especially when characters you thought of as burlesque and one-dimensional reveal their fears and dreams to one another.